Hey guys, in this week's Casually Criterion, we are going to review Bull Durham. But before that, we're going to be talking about The Beatles Get Back, Arcane, and Hawkeye. So, get ready.
Hello and welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris, and with me as always, who is just happy to be here, and he's going to do his best. Mike, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I apologize.
I am happy to be here, and I will do my best.
Yeah, you do every week. Also with us is a man who believes that AstroTurf should be outlawed from podcasting. Why it was ever a thing in the first place, I don't know. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm good. That's weird. I'm trying to imagine why we would ever have AstroTurf, but you know, you said it.
The sound, yeah, I don't know.
You don't have to water it.
That's true. I also don't have to water the wood vinyl laminate floor that I'm currently on.
All right, if this is your first time listening, this is a Casually Criterion episode, which is a Criterion Collection-focused episode that we like to do usually every other episode, where we review a film from the Criterion Collection that is picked by the listeners. Before we get into the main review, though, we will be doing our usual News on the March, where we talk about recent news and things that we've been watching. So if you haven't seen the movie, you could still listen for a good while. And then we'll move into our main review. Again, this week it's Bull Durham, spine number 936.
That's right. As Mike said, the listeners choose our Criterion films. We do that through a poll that we put out on our Twitter account. Pay attention and, or not pay attention, stick around. I mean, for the end of this episode, when you do our next Criterion poll to choose our next film, that poll we'll put out on our Twitter account. The link will be in the show notes. If you don't want to use the link in our show notes, our Twitter is at Casual Cinecast. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Casual Cinecast as well, but the best place to follow us, where we are the most active, is Twitter. You can send messages to any of those social media accounts with questions, movie suggestions, whatever. You can also email us at casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then, of course, if you haven't done so already, you enjoy the show, leave us a review, 5 stars, 10 stars, whatever it is. The highest rating, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
My self-esteem depends on you.
Please and thank you. Okay, and then I guess now that all that is out of the way, let's just move on into the show. What do you say, guys?
Yeah, let's march into the news.
News on the march!
Well, here we are in News on the March, and first up, Mike,
Indeed.
Get us started. Get us marching.
All right, so this week I have been spending a lot of my free time sinking into this documentary that is very long, but pretty interesting. You guys may have heard of this thing coming out on Disney Plus recently. It's called Get Back, which is about the recording sessions that the Beatles had during the Let It Be album. Have you guys heard of this thing?
Nice.
Sure have.
Yeah, I have. It's all the rage right now.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, I would not consider myself a large Beatles fan. I would consider myself a passing Beatles fan. You know, they have some songs that I like quite a bit, but I don't ever really listen to their albums as a whole, you know? The most I get is probably like a greatest hits album or my own playlist on Spotify where I just have a bunch of random songs that I shuffle between. But I do enjoy the mysteriousness of the Beatles, right? They always kind of have this aura about them where even if you don't really know about them that much or whatever, you've probably heard stories about them breaking up, about John Lennon and Yoko Ono and all this stuff. You can't really escape the lasting effects of Beatlemania, you know? Mm-hmm. And so this documentary is actually pretty fascinating because it just seems like if this footage existed, it should have been released a long time ago or whatever. But I don't know. Whatever Peter Jackson did to this film by like remastering it and sorting through hours and hours of footage to put this thing together, it's pretty fascinating. Like it's kind of too long, if you ask me. Like there's not enough there's not a whole lot of drama going on. It's kind of just them hanging around jamming and talking and stuff. There's some really great gems in there though. Like for example, like you get to see like when Paul McCartney just sort of comes up with the idea for the song Get Back, and everyone else is just kind of like talking and having a conversation, and he's just over there jamming by himself. You get to see Paul McCartney's feelings about John and Yoko Ono and how John is sort of drifting from the band. There is like a moment where like George Harrison like just quits and then John Lennon's not showing up. And so it's just Ringo and Paul and a bunch of people hanging out in the studio. And then you could definitely see the hurt on Paul's face as he's trying to like keep it together and fight back the tears and all that stuff. And I don't know, it's fascinating to watch because like I feel like I see the Beatles as people for the first time in my life and not just these larger than life legends, you know? They were just young guys, like younger than I am now, recording an album. And they'd already been famous for forever, right? And they don't have that much long as a band left. And you can kind of see it on all their faces and all their attitudes and their exchanges with each other. I don't know. It's all fascinating. If you're at all into the Beatles, I would recommend at least putting it on and watching as much as you can. Like I said, it's not all good. It's probably a little too long, but it is fascinating to see them write these like iconic songs while they're just goofing around having fun. So I don't know. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, like I would say I'm not into the Beatles really, but what I am into is behind the scenes music stuff, like studio stuff. I've watched bands I like. I'll watch any sort of like behind the scenes studio footage that they put out because I think it's really fascinating to see them recording, writing, being creative, that sort of thing. There's this band that I do not like at all. Like I like the Beatles way more than I like a band called Dream Theater. And they put out like on YouTube I think it's like a 3 or 4 part like series where they were auditioning new drummers, and they would just each episode they'd have like a drummer come in and they'd put them through like a 3-part audition process. And I don't even like them or really like the music that they're playing that much. But I sat there and watched the whole like 4 hours in like a day, like one sitting. So this stuff is just like inherently interesting to me. So I think this is going to be right up my alley once I get around to actually starting it.
Yeah, because at least with this, it's like even if you don't care for the Beatles or you're indifferent towards them one way or the other or whatever, you've heard these songs. These are big songs. These are big, famous songs, you know?
Yeah.
And to see their inception and see them executed by these like young dudes, like, and the footage just touched up so nicely that it's like, it's hard to believe that it's even real or survived this long. Because it's really candid. It's just a bunch of people hanging out. There's like someone's kid running all over the studio. Like Yoko Ono and like Paul and John are like jamming at one point, and Yoko Ono's just making stupid screaming noises that are obnoxious. But
yeah, I think that's what she did.
That's her thing. But all of it's really fascinating, and to know the inner dynamics of everything, I think you would like it. I think you would.
Yeah, I know I would. It's just a matter of starting it.
It's between 7 and 8 hours long when it's all said and done. I just finished today and took a nap.
Oh, geez. It was originally supposed to be just a movie. It was going to get released this year as
Peter
like
Jackson
a 2-hour movie.
Edit himself.
Yeah.
I think it would be a stronger, like 2.5 hour documentary than it is like a 7 to 8 hour one. As far as like being interesting and like there are arcs you could play up, you know. But I can understand why he wanted to do it this way, because like why not give as much of this content to the public as possible, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like a jam session, so you kind of get to hang out with them even when there's nothing going on, really, like something that you couldn't really do with a movie, you know? Like,
right.
I do like Peter Jackson quite a bit in his documentaries. They Shall Not Grow Old was really good, and he did a lot with that footage, you know, colorized it and made it so that it was, you know, 24 frames per second and stuff like that. I found that really fascinating. So I am interested in what he did with this.
Yeah, I don't know how much manipulation he had to do to the actual footage. I assume he had to restore it and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it looks good. It looks shockingly good because, like I said, like you get to see these are just young dudes hanging out. Like, you know, I don't know. It's like, in pictures, they always seem so much older than they were.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like, you know, seeing Michelangelo paint like the Sistine Chapel or something like that, right? Like or Van Gogh like painting
Starry Night something, or whatever.
One of his like famous works, Starry Night. Yeah. Like it's similar to that. It's like peeling back the curtain, as I think you kind of said earlier, of seeing these famous things be created instead of just existing as this iconic
existing decades older than I am. I got to see them actually being thought out and practiced and everything. So it's pretty fascinating in that way.
Yeah. And we're probably used to that with like modern artists, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, like I said, like I've seen some other behind the scenes like documentaries with musicians and stuff like that, much like you have. And it's always a fascinating process to see how like artists create. But yeah, just seeing these particular artists create this particular album, which is going to be their last one. I don't know. There's a certain, it is kind of like, it takes you aback a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
So anyways, I recommend it. Get Back on Disney Plus. Yeah, check it out, especially Justin. But Chris, you should too. And so should you, listener.
Deal.
All right. What have you guys been watching? I know you guys have watched something together that I did not watch.
Chris, do you want to talk about it, or you want me to talk about it?
I can start us off, and then you can tell us what you thought. Like, it's Arcane, the League of Legends cartoon, computer animated cartoon, I guess I should say. This is a really weird. Like the way I fell into it is kind of weird. Like because when it first came out, you know, you see Arcane, you know, and then you see League of Legends, and you're kind of almost immediately turned off. Because I don't know anything about League of Legends.
Yeah,
you know,
I was turned off when you guys started talking about it.
Wait, because we were talking about it, or because
well, just because I didn't know what it was until you started talking about it, and I was like, that doesn't sound good. But then, apparently, I hear differently.
Yeah, so that was kind of the surprise. Like I had heard a couple people say that it was good, and I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. You know, so I watched the first episode. It's beautifully animated. It looks really, really great. And I think some of it has to do with my expectations going into it. It surprised me, and it went to places I didn't think it was going to go, without spoiling it. But like, I think the first 3 episodes to me are like really good, like the best. They kind of actually Netflix split it up. They released 3 episodes once a week. For 3 weeks, being a total of 9 episodes. And each 3 episodes is kind of like, they call it Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. And they kind of tell a little bit more of a smaller story within those 3 episodes. And the first 3 episodes are the best, like, and most complete story, I think. And I was just really kind of blown away. But the animation's great. And then the story, I think, was surprising, and you know, expectations may have been low for me, and that's why I was so surprised by it. But yeah, what did you think, Justin? So like, then what happened was we like started talking on our chat, and I was like, you guys should watch this, and Justin started it. So what did you think?
Yeah, I was surprised too. I mean, League of Legends is a game that I am familiar with, but have never played, and I'm pretty sure I don't like, or wouldn't like, I should say, because I don't like other games that are a similar type of game.
MOBAs.
And so, what's that?
MOBAs.
Yeah, that one. And so, yeah, I'd never been interested in the game, and so was not interested in the series, but, you know, on your recommendation, I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I think like the animation is really great, really cool most of the time. There's definitely some similar feelings I got to the first time I was watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where I felt like they were doing some things I had never seen before with animation, and making it much more artful than I expected, especially from a show based on a video game sort of thing like this. And yeah, I think it's really good so far. I have only seen 5 episodes. I haven't caught up with all 9 yet. I think the different acts thing, it sort of feels like it's leading up to a bigger story so far, you know. Overall, it doesn't feel quite as separate as I thought it was going to be whenever you mentioned it was in different acts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels like it might be one big story so far, and a story that I think could be worthwhile and fun when it's all said and done, you know, fun to have gone through it all. Yeah, I think if I'm gonna level any complaints at it, one that I thoroughly went over in our chat, but the theme song is quite terrible, and I skip intro every time. After the first episode, I was like, they didn't give me the skip intro option on the first one, and
They wanted you to experience it in all its glory.
Yeah, and so I experienced it once, and I thought, I can't wait for that skip intro button to pop up every episode from now on. They commissioned Imagine Dragons, which I'm sure there's some people who like Imagine Dragons out there, but I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, me neither.
So anyways, yeah. That's my only complaint, really. Otherwise, I think it's pretty fun and it's pretty neat.
I saw it got renewed for a season 2, so I may check it out.
Yeah, I think that probably makes it worth checking out now, since it's so well received, and there will be more than just this like limited one-time series.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I do like the idea of Netflix releasing these not necessarily one at a time, but 3 at a time sounds better than just dumping everything at once.
Yeah, I think it kept it relevant enough that I did end up checking it out. Like if they had dumped it all at once, it might have come and gone, and I might not have ever checked it out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like most Netflix things that I haven't watched.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, funny enough, I didn't realize this till I was getting ready to talk about it, but Haley Steinfeld does a main voice on this show.
Oh.
So if you're looking for any sort of entry of someone you might know, that's the one. I think everyone else is pretty... all the other voice actors are unknown.
Interesting. She may have done something with Star Wars Visions recently too, but maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
Maybe. She's doing all kinds of stuff.
I know.
As we may talk about also.
Indeed. Are you guys done talking about
I don't know
Arcane?
why I'm teasing it. It's at the start of the episode you said what we're talking about, so like acting
gotta
like
keep
it's
it a
unknown.
secret. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think I am done talking about Arcane. It's worthwhile in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Really good with a bad theme song. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you take away that theme song, I think I like the the opening credits. All right. I'm not as against the theme song as Justin, and probably you are, Mike. But
I think Justin's just against opening credits in general.
That is true. That is true.
Like, unless it just like the title of your show pops up, in my experience, Justin's going to bitch about it.
Yeah, if it's longer than wow, which is the Lost intro.
That's Lost. Oh, I know. That's Lost. And Better Call Saul has a great intro length. Breaking Bad had a good one. That's what I'm into. But this one is like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, I think.
Sounds like anime.
Song.
It's like when I go to watch like Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super or something like that, like their theme songs are so ridiculous and long.
Yeah, the opening credits, you're like, it's a 25-minute episode, which 5 of them are taken up with the opening credits, and then 5 of them are taken up with the closing credits,
Yeah. So no thank you to that, but this one, even for that, is exceptionally bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think
Imagine Dragons, I can imagine how bad it is.
Yeah.
It's like, if you like the song Radioactive, this sounds basically exactly like that, just with different lyrics, so... If you like that song, you'll probably like this theme song. If you don't, then you won't.
I also think there's some sort of like Imagine Dragons, League of Legends tie-in. So like, it seems there's something that happens later on in the season that seems like out of obligation they had to do it type of thing. Which also involves Imagine Dragons. So
you're losing me.
Actually, Mike, you should watch the first episode and see what you think.
No, I definitely will. It sounds good to me. I'm going to need a new show after I finish Avatar: The Last Airbender because I'm on season 3.
Yeah, if you like Avatar, I think
nice.
This is good. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well,
so
cool. That's it for
from
Arcane.
Haley Steinfeld to Haley Steinfeld. How's that for a rollover?
Yeah, that was
a segue.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. Really smooth until you called it out.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Who wants to get us started with their thoughts on Hawkeye?
I've only seen one episode, so I don't know that I'm the most equipped to give like an overall view of it, but I will say the first episode I thought was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Had some fun moments.
Yeah. I agree. I feel the same way after the second episode as well. I think that Haley Steinfeld is super watchable. I've always liked her. I'm glad she's, in stuff still. I liked her in True Grit way back in, what was that, 2008, 2009? 2010. I'm pretty sure it was 2010. I'm going to go with that. But yeah. What about you, Chris? What do you think of Hawkeye?
Yeah, well, I think I tend to be a little bit higher on these things, especially when we're only 2 episodes in, because I'm excited for what's going to come next. Oftentimes I find that, like, especially with the Marvel shows, I have been somewhat disappointed with the endings of them. I think Loki is the exception to that, and there's only 2 other ones. But I've really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I think there's a couple of moments, like the I Can Do This All Day song from the Rogers the Musical is pretty pretty great because they use it. There's a couple of different things they use it for. Like it's funny, it's goofy, and then they also use it for they let you know that Hawkeye has hearing aids, and he also has like a PTSD flash. So it's a great moment where they do a bunch of different things, and it works out really well. And then the urinal scene. I think the thing with Thanos is right. That whole sequence is pretty great. Of the Broadway show, I think. And kind of the whole like Hawkeye in New York with his kids, I really enjoyed, and you kind of see the fallout of what they've been through, which I really enjoy.
I'd say that this show is really strong on like I guess world building is a way you could say it, but it's more like I'm impressed with just like how well they're incorporating the world they've created into this show to make Hawkeye feel a little bit more interesting. Like, he is losing his hearing, and it is because he's not like an enhanced human being, and he's like doing all kinds of dangerous stuff and like all these action sequences that are taking their toll on him because he can't just like jump off a building and then do this all day. Like, he's not a Captain America. He's a regular guy. He was probably just like a special agent that all of a sudden got assigned a costume, whenever the Avengers became this public thing. Like he didn't ask for the public eye. He didn't ask for, goofy costumes and all that stuff. He just was doing his job, and I think that is interesting. This idea that he's like a really famous guy, but he doesn't really want to be, and he doesn't think of himself that way.
And the thing that people recognize him for are things that hurt, like they remind him of, pain, like losing Black Widow and stuff like that, So I find that aspect of it really interesting. And I also, frankly, like Hawkeye is probably the least interesting Avenger.
Yeah, he's the worst one.
He has the least to do in all those, so it's kind of interesting to see them rework that character and show, hopefully, what the show shows is why do the Avengers need someone like Hawkeye? Or, if he passes the mantle down, someone like Haley Steinfeld, which will then be Hawkeye, correct?
Yeah,
so that'll be interesting, or at least that's what I'm hoping for,
I enjoyed how, I think this is in the first episode, so the flashback from like 2012 when like the first Avengers took place. And you basically see the Battle of New York taking place outside of what is Haley Steinfeld's name? Kate Bishop, out of Kate Bishop's window, right? And then that's in the first episode, right? I'm not
correct. That's how that opens the show.
Yeah, that's how the series opens.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So anyway, I enjoy what these Marvel shows have been doing because they've been diving into things like the Battle of New York or the blip, as they call it now. And you get to see it from the perspective of people who are just living their lives.
Ordinary people.
Yeah, and it's like all these crazy like alien invasions and cosmic events and all this stuff that we see in the movies. I enjoy how we get to see it from another perspective. Like, what would it be like if a bunch of aliens were invading New York and you were just hanging out with your parents in your house one day, I enjoy that aspect of it quite a bit, I think.
Yeah.
This idea of really embracing the events that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think this is a Quentin Tarantino quote, but excuse me if I'm wrong, but he had said something along the lines of like they should make a movie that's where like it's just a family drama, but Godzilla is just in the background wreaking havoc like every, month or so, like, but it has nothing to do with Godzilla. He's just in the background all the time, like
he's just part of the world that these people live in.
Yeah, and they have to just like live around him, and that's what I really like and find interesting and fascinating, and what I am kind of interested in with Hawkeye. I hope we see more of that.
Yeah, I think I'm closer to you. Like I'm with Justin in the sense that it's fine because it hasn't concluded yet, but I'm enjoying it. Like if they had released more episodes that day, I would have watched all of them.
Oh, sure.
And I enjoyed the first episode. I'll definitely watch the second one. I think I just, as opposed to feeling like, wow, look what they're doing. This is like, conceptually really interesting, which, it's not trying to be the same thing that Loki and WandaVision were in terms of having this totally new feel. I think this just hasn't like wowed me yet.
Yeah. And since you kind of called that out, I will say that I think that's one of the strengths of this show so far is it's like, it's very grounded. Like there's no monster, there's no alien, there's no sci-fi concept, there's no Wanda making things into a reality or a sitcom. It's very just like street level so far, fighting thugs.
Yeah, you get the tracksuit mafia after you, and I'm sure we'll get more fantastical elements, but I'd be surprised if we see anything, well, with supernatural powers, I think it'll all be very street level.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I was happy to see Tony Dalton show up.
Yeah, I was going to say Tony Dalton's in this show, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
He showed up, and I immediately did not trust him. And I was like, mustache. I don't know why, but I don't trust that guy. And then I was like, oh, that's the guy.
Mustache, and it's Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't get to be, at least so far in the first two episodes, he's good, but he doesn't get to be as charming as he is in Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Yeah. He only gets to look charming because he looks charming. I guess he doesn't get to be charming yet.
Yeah. He gets to do a little bit in episode 2, but it's just, I really like that character in Better Call Saul.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, cool.
So it sounds like we're all on board on Hawkeye so far. Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
No, I don't.
Nah, I'm good.
Well, other than Bull Durham.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
But we'll move on to that.
What do you believe in then?
Well, I believe in the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last for 3 days.
Oh, my.
Who are you? I'm the player to be named later.
I love winning, man. You hear what I'm saying? It's like better than losing.
These are the ground rules. I hook up with one guy a season. Usually takes me a couple weeks to pick the guy. Kind of my own spring training.
It's cold in here.
You think Dwight Gooden leaves his socks on?
God, the sucker teed off in that like he knew I was going to throw a fastball.
He did know. I told him.
Honey, I want you to wear these when you're pitching on the road. They're garters.
Rose goes in the front, big guy.
Love is a lot like baseball. It's not whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game.
No problem, baby, no problem.
Kevin Costner.
Get a hit, Crash.
Shut up.
Susan Sarandon.
Have you ever been tied up in bed?
Tim Robbins.
I'm too old for this.
Bull Durham.
Okay, so as always with our older Criterion films, we do not do our usual spoiler-free section that we do on the newer films. We jump straight into the review. Spoilers may happen right from the get-go, so if you have not seen Bull Durham and you don't want anything spoiled?
That's right.
Spoiled. Pause the podcast right now, go watch Bull Durham, and then come back and finish listening.
Indeed. So, Bull Durham was directed by Ron Shelton. It stars Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, and Tim Robbins. The IMDb synopsis says, a fan who has an affair with one minor league baseball player each season meets an up-and-coming pitcher and the experienced catcher assigned to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that's probably pretty accurate.
It's very accurate.
That is what happens in the movie.
I like it. Mm-hmm. And there's conflict in it.
Yep.
And sex appeal.
Yep.
I suppose.
Yep. All those things. So,
anyways,
I guess I'll kick us off because I believe I chose this film.
Yes.
Right. Rub it in.
Yeah. Well, so the theme was second chances. And we each chose a film that we did not like or did not sit well with us the first time. And we wanted to give another look to. And Bull Durham has always been that movie for me. I saw it when I was a little kid. I didn't really like it. I can see why now, because it's not a movie for kids at all.
Yeah.
There's not even one redeeming element of it that a kid would like, but except for maybe Susan Sarandon's boobs. But even when I saw it for the first time, it wasn't really on my mind.
Yeah. Well, I could see why you might not like it now too.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even sure when you had originally watched this movie, but I was like, I think I might understand.
Yeah. So,
but go on.
I will say I still don't love it. Like, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's a little silly. It's okay. I think it's okay. I still think it is a very ugly movie. Like, visually speaking, none of this looks good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very unattractive movie.
It's plain. It's not heightening anything in any sort of
no.
way.
Like the baseball's not even the baseball scenes don't even look good. It looks like they're just playing in like a local field. Like it looks like it makes the minor league seem really minor.
Yeah, these guys are playing super minor leagues. You know, they're in the like quadruple A or something.
Yeah. So I'll keep it there. I think Kevin Costner's pretty good in this movie. Susan Sarandon's probably the best performance. Tim Robbins is a fun goofball.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gets to be a little goofier here than I've seen him be in a lot of things. So the movie's not bad. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to on a second chance watching, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where I'll keep it. Justin, what did you think?
Well, this was my first time to ever see this movie. So I'll start there. So I really didn't have any expectations going in or any reevaluation to do. This is just straight up regular evaluation. And that said, you know, I do enjoy some sports movies, you know, but I wasn't really sure what this movie was going to be about or what it was going to be like. Like, I didn't even know, was this a drama? Was this a comedy? Is it just a straight up sports movie? I really had no expectations. So I was kind of off put by the tone at points, you know, and I think I'm going to start negative. Because overall, I did like this movie. I enjoyed what this movie was doing, even though I would say I didn't love it. But like from a negative standpoint, like when the movie was trying to be a comedy, it mostly failed for me. Like I didn't think it was particularly funny, and some of the humor I don't think ages quite as well. Not in like a controversial standpoint, but I just think some of the humor is not as shocking or as surprising anymore. You know, particularly things like the early sex stuff with Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon, where like it's like brings out the rope and then like, oh, surprise, surprise, she's tying him up and reading him poetry. I think isn't maybe as laugh out loud funny nowadays as it might have been in the 80s.
We've all had that experience.
Yeah. That's like, you know, every other day for most people. But anyways, so going into what I do like about this movie is I really like the pacing of it and the sort of leisurely pacing of it. This movie doesn't really seem to be in a hurry with getting anywhere plot wise, or even to have a huge, tension building, enticing plot. Like the most tension is maybe between Susan Sarandon and Kevin Costner. And even though the baseball isn't even that intense or suspenseful. And to me, I like that the movie kind of has that like pacing of a baseball game or baseball in general. You know, like the season is 180 something games long.
162.
You know, it's 162. I was very close. 162 games long. And like, it takes a long time to build up, you know, like it doesn't really start mattering until closer to the end, where like games start to feel more and more important. It's just kind of this leisurely paced thing. Even baseball games, you know, there's like, they kind of hinge on a few moments, and even then, like those moments aren't that exciting in a bubble, if that makes sense. And this movie just kind of has that similar pace to me, where like there's not a ton of like exciting things that happen. When they do, they're kind of there very briefly and over. Like when characters fight, that's like one punch, and then they're like, okay, so well, let's be friends now. You know, now that we've punched each other.
I'll buy you
once.
a beer.
Yeah, and I like that it doesn't over heighten anything really. And that was kind of one of the things that I looked up when I was reading it, was that like people who know baseball, which I am not a huge baseball fan. I enjoy it sometimes, you know, watching like the playoffs, the World Series, that sort of thing. But the big compliment that I've seen from people who like baseball, like there's people who are huge baseball fans that wrote like some of the essays in the Criterion edition. And they're saying that, you know, what this movie does great is encapsulate baseball in the way that it is, and not over heighten it or make it melodramatic, and not, you know, they don't give us the slow-mo pitch of the ball spinning towards the batter in slow-mo, and then like a close-up on the face as they like grimace and get ready to swing, and then like, you know, slow-mo, the bat hitting the ball and the ball flying through the air. Is it going to go over there? There's like none of that suspense, none of that, you know, flair to this movie and to the baseball at all. And I appreciate that. That said, I think this movie is really going to work best for fans of baseball. And because I think it doesn't dumb itself down to people who aren't fans of it in some places. You know, most people have like a passing knowledge of baseball, but you know, there's lingo that they just throw out there and never explain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that feels like who this movie is for, someone who's going to appreciate all of that nuance. And that is not necessarily me. So I don't love this film. I enjoyed it for what it is. I appreciate the things that it's doing. It's just not for me at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's some music drops of recognizable songs in here that are fun to hear. So maybe some people will say the soundtrack's great, but you know, it's not the greatest of all soundtracks in terms of pop music. But yeah, otherwise I agree with you, Mike, that the cinematography is just fine. It's really documenting everything. It's not making it pretty. It's just, here it is, like warts and all. You know?
Like
but I think that's intentional.
Even in like Susan Sarandon's house, I'm just like, man, this is a very ugly set.
Yeah, I think it's all intentional. It's just like, here it is.
Yeah, here are these people.
This is it. It's ugly. It's minor league baseball.
And nobody has a ton of money or whatever.
Yeah. But Chris, I've gone on long enough. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think out of the three of us, I'm probably the biggest baseball fan.
Yes.
I grew up going to baseball games with my dad all the time. Big Texas Ranger fan. One day we'll get to the World Series and actually win it. We were one pitch away, one strike away twice. And it still hurts, guys. It still hurts. Anyways, but on Bull Durham, you're right. I really like the world that they build of the minor leagues. You know, most of the minor leagues, there's no like playoffs. You just play the game, and you're not making a ton of money. You just show up for the love of the game type of thing. And that's kind of what I like about Kevin Costner's character in this, where he's just a workman. You know, it's like, you know, we talk about like workman directors, you know, people that show up and they do a good job. You know, they're not a Paul Thomas Anderson or Stanley Kubrick, but they show up and they put out good product every day, and they're doing it because they like to, right? And I enjoyed that about this aspect of it. There's no, in fact, you know, his one milestone is really just a personal milestone for him, is like to get to beat the minor league record in home runs, and because nobody really pays attention to it. And it's just a personal thing that he wants to get done. And Susan Sarandon happens to find out. And, you know, I enjoyed that aspect of it, where he knows that Tim Robbins' character is going to, you know, go to the show, and he's jealous and upset. And I really like that. I don't know exactly how I feel about the Kevin Costner Susan Sarandon thing necessarily. I don't know exactly. I like the Tim Robbins Susan Sarandon. I like the Tim Robbins and Kevin Costner, you know, like kind of mentoring them. But I don't know how I feel about Susan Sarandon and Kevin Costner in the end, and maybe we can talk about that, and I can figure out how I feel. But yeah, I think you guys have said everything pretty great. And even though I'm a big baseball fan, I like this movie. It's not great. I tell you what, Kevin Costner can give some good speeches in it. You know, his I Believe speech, and whenever he's kind of monologuing is kind of when this movie shines, and when you really like it, or when I really like it, at least. So
yeah, I think when he's dishing out wisdom to Tim Robbins in kind of like a cocky manner is the most fun that I have in this movie. You know,
yeah.
him saying like, well, he's going to shake off my calls and not go with the pitches he should.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the batter what he's doing.
Yeah.
That stuff is really fun.
Yeah. I like the voiceover that they have, like as he's pitching and then also as he's batting, Kevin Costner. I think that's really fun. And I don't know if you guys have ever played baseball. I played like very low stakes baseball when I was a kid.
I played T-ball when I was a kid.
Yeah, kind of that. I was a little bit older than that, probably like right before high school type of age. And it certainly wasn't like, you know, there's crazy parents that take their kids, you know, it was just like a very laid back league. And it was a lot of fun, but you know, you go up to that plate and you're just thinking to yourself, you know, like, all right, this is what I got to do, you know, and it's a lot of fun. I like that voiceover. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think it's worth watching, and it is especially worth watching if you're a baseball fan. And how many baseball movies does Kevin Costner have now? I think it's 3 for Love of the Game. Not What Dreams May Come.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams, yes.
What
Field of Dreams, though, isn't even really a baseball movie.
Well,
I mean, it's heavily featured, but like I wouldn't say that like there's a whole lot of baseball in that, nor do you have to like baseball to think that movie's great.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But
as long as you have a relationship with someone who is a dad, who is your dad, I think you can.
Yeah,
Field of Dreams is pretty accessible.
Baseball is very tied into it, at least to me and my dad and all that stuff. So, but it's certainly, to me, it's a trilogy of movies that he has. And anyways, yeah, I like it. So
yeah, well, I think so. I was messaging a friend of mine who's really into baseball. Like a really, really like more so than you, Chris.
Ooh.
And he was saying that Kevin Costner loved doing these baseball movies because he considered himself like a pretty good baseball player.
Oh.
And so he was always all about these movies and all about, you know, showing his talent and making sure that it was like kind of showcased, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice in this movie, I don't know if you caught it. I kind of texted him about it because I was like, is this a mistake or what's going on? Because sometimes Kevin Costner would bat left-handed and sometimes he would bat right-handed. And
he's a switch hitter.
He was just doing that to show how good he could switch hit.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny.
That's funny.
It's like
supposedly, I guess Tim Robbins threw out his arm like on the first day of filming. So if you're a big sports fan, you know that he's not pitching very well. I wouldn't have caught that, but like he's not throwing like any regular pitcher would.
That's why he's so. Right. That's why he's so hot. That's why I made it to the show. That unconventional arm.
Yeah. If we can talk about a point that you made, Chris, about Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon, and I think I kind of understand what you're saying, because you're not so sure how you feel about it. And I'm wondering if the reason that them getting together is, I don't know, it's not amazing. It's not super satisfying. And I wonder if it's just because it's so inevitable from the get-go.
Well,
yeah, we know it's going to happen.
Well, I see that's the element of the movie that I think I enjoyed a little bit more than I guess you guys did. To me, it's about getting older. Kevin Costner doesn't. He like you said, he's a workman player, right? He shows up. He's never going to be the brightest star or the biggest name or whatever, right? He comes and he goes and he does his job. But he loves the game. He loves it. He's a true player. Like he lives it. He breathes the lifestyle. He's not trying to get much more than that, it seems like. And then Susan Sarandon loves baseball, and I think she has her like, I only hook up with like one player a year policy, and I think that's a way of being in the life, but also keeping yourself at a safe distance from it as well. So I feel like Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon are kind of two sides of the same coin in a sense, and they're both at a point in their lives where I think they want something more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
They've become the teachers, right?
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, she doesn't want to keep hooking up with a random player. She wants to, like, have something that really matters, right? And he wants to stop, going from team to team. He wants to sit down and have a job that really matters, where he can make a difference and be good at it. So to me, it feels like these are the people they're supposed to be, that these people would naturally grow into.
Yeah, I would say more than that's what they want. Like she doesn't want to, or he wants to. It's more the inevitability of like that time is coming. Their time is up, and they're out of their prime, right?
Right. Yeah.
And she's to the point of her life where, maybe she's getting a little too old to be chasing around young baseball players. Like maybe she's getting to that point in life where like settling down is the best move for her, is the thing that she has to do. Not to like, say that women can't, have sexual lives for as long as they want to. Like that's totally fine.
Well, every human being can, but I think you get to a certain age and you're like,
They're both just kind of like aging out of the game that they're playing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to her, like you said, Mike, it's a way for her to be involved in baseball and almost have a role to play in the team.
Yeah, that's what I'm sure that's what she like. That's how she. I don't want to say like reasons it because she's not doing anything wrong, but like I think that's how she looks at it. Right? Is like she can't be involved in the team directly because she is a woman. So it's like this is her way of being on the sidelines and still feel like she's contributing to the team.
Yeah, it's. I think it's almost less about the sex and more about the education of a young prospect. And so then when someone like Tim Robbins does go to the show, which both her and Kevin Costner really contributed to his education as a baseball player, right? So that's kind of more of what it's about than necessarily just about the sex. It's about that partnering up and reading Walt Whitman and educating him. And Kevin Costner's kind of already been educated, like he's in that way.
Yeah. I think that's just like maybe she feels that coming on, that inevitable decline when Tim Robbins is kind of able to resist her during his hot streak when he goes on the sex ban.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also it serves as like a method for her to confront Kevin Costner, who then confronts her right back by being like, if you think that wearing women's underwear is causing you to win, or if you think that being celibate is causing you to win, then it is. And you should know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you believe it, then it is. And I think it's a way for her to kind of realize who she's become. Like she's not the person she thinks she is at the beginning of the movie anymore, right? She's growing up, she's changing, she's looking for something a little bit more equal in a relationship and not so much her having to constantly like teach or mentor or scold or whatever. What it seems like to me is like, Tim Robbins is resisting her, but I don't know that it's her being like, oh, I'm getting old. I think it's more like, well, this is what she signed up for, but is she getting the satisfaction out of this that she thought she was going to? Because like, if it's about the game, then she should know that whatever Tim Robbins, because like, these guys are all superstitious, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I feel like she's no different than that. Like the whole baseball fan culture and player culture is just like all about suspicions and superstitions and all that. So I feel like Kevin Costner is calling her out on something that she knows for herself.
Yeah. And I think all of that is good. All of that sort of, comparing the two and them to being kind of, as you said, two sides of the same coin. I think it's just in terms of like them getting together for me and like that the whole scene, just none of it felt particularly satisfying. Like them dancing or being in bed together. It was just kind of the movie dwelled on it for maybe too long.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there. But like, I feel like it's supposed to be. It's fleeting, right? Because then it ends with him just taking off down the road one day. And so I feel like, I don't think it's supposed to be satisfying in a sense that you're like, now the movie's finally getting started, or like the thing we've been waiting for. I think it's about their lives. It's about who they are, right? It's about the people that they are. And then the satisfaction, I feel, comes at the very last scene when he comes back. Because that's when they both realize that they need to change. That they're not the people that they thought they were or have been pretending to be for this season of baseball.
I think for me, and nothing that we've said so far is wrong or anything, but like for me, all the tension in the movie is like on Tim Robbins. You know, like Kevin Costner's training him up. You know, Susan Sarandon's training him up, and it's like the tension's all there. And there's like confrontations and a little bit between Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon, but I just don't. That's not where, for me, the tension is. You know, like so there's like a release of tension when they finally do get together. You know, like I don't know. It just seems like it's so focused on the Tim Robbins character that as opposed to even like focusing a little bit more on Kevin Costner, like realizing that this is the end of his career, or Susan Sarandon realizing that, you know, like this is the end of like what she should, you know, like her, whatever she's doing, you know, like I don't know. I guess I just didn't come to that. I didn't see that as important to the movie as the Tim Robbins character and whether he goes
I completely
to the show
disagree. Like on that element, because like I think you're harping on the one thing that actually works well for me, and Tim Robbins is not it. I like Tim Robbins as an actor, but I don't know. Everything about that character is just a complete goofball, sloppy mess, and so I don't know. The movie to me, at its strongest, is it's a movie about teachers. More than it is, it's not about the up and coming hot shot. There's always going to be a Tim Robbins on the team. The movie's really about the people who aren't the hot shots, who still love baseball, who still love the life and the game and everything that comes with it. It's like Yoda says to Luke in The Last Jedi, right? It's like, we are what they grow beyond. That is the burden of all teachers. The movie's about the teachers.
Yeah.
It's about the people that Tim Robbins is inevitably going to grow beyond. He was always going to be going to the show. But the movie's about the people that showed him the way. The mentors, you know, that's what the movie really is about. And that's what the movie is at its strongest, I think. It's not about, is Tim Robbins going to make it or not, you know?
Right. I agree. And I think the most fun stuff between Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon is seeing them as, you know, self-proclaimed experts, you know? They both know so much. You know, Susan Sarandon's passing notes to the players saying, hey, do this. And Kevin Costner knows it all. And to see those two who know everything come together and clash is like maybe the most fun.
Yeah, I agree. Like the batting cage scene.
Yeah, the batting cage scene's good.
The scene where she comes to Kevin Costner's apartment and he's like drinking and ironing his clothes.
He's ironing his clothes in very short shorts that reveal a lot about him, leave very little to the imagination.
Yeah. It's all to get her hot and bothered.
Yeah. I think her friend is a pretty fun character too, the blonde girl whose name I can't... Millie? Yeah.
Millie.
Yeah. She's fun. Her and the priest getting together, or not priest, evangelical guy.
Yeah.
Getting together is funny, but it's one of those things that feels a little bit dated, or maybe it's just been done too much, you know, that it doesn't quite feel fresh.
Yeah, it felt a little classic movie trope in a way, but I don't know. I hope good things for those two.
Yeah. I really like the meeting on the mound, you know. He's like, well, we're going to need a chicken, you know, like we're going to have to sacrifice a chicken. I really like that whole sequence.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite baseball sequences is whenever like, well, we're going to need a live rooster. No one knows what to get Millie and what's his face for their wedding.
And then he's like, candlesticks work.
Yeah, he's like candlesticks or something off their registry.
Yeah, it's not a big moment, but I do like when Millie's getting put in the dress and she's talking to Susan Sarandon and she's like, do you think I deserve to wear white? And she's like, honey, we all deserve to wear white. Just like that moment. That's very nice.
And I think it's actually, like we're you know, like the wedding may not be that original. We may have seen that kind of thing executed in movies before, but I like what it does to Susan Sarandon's character, right? Which is like her little protege is getting out of that life as well, you know, and she's still going along strong. So I think that kind of contributes to her wanting to maybe grow up at the end a little bit as well.
Yeah. I do think this movie is fairly sex positive, like especially for the 80s, like do what you want, take responsibility for it and type of thing, and not shaming people for doing those things.
Yeah.
Every time
Susan Sarandon is a positive character in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to have a bad
she's
opinion
not
of Susan
looked down on.
Sarandon.
No, for sure not.
No, or Millie.
Or Millie,
Yeah.
Like every time somebody brings up that Millie slept with a lot of people, everybody jumps to her defense type of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, and even has sort of like that attitude at the beginning where Susan Sarandon's like, no, you take responsibility for what happened. You don't say that you were lured into it or something like that. Like they very much look at themselves like as sex positive women making their own decisions about what they want to do and don't do.
Yeah, if they want to do that, that's okay.
Yeah, and the players don't seem to shame them for it. On the contrary, I think the players all like them.
Yeah, I think they're for it, in my opinion. Oh, I don't know how much more you guys have. Do you guys have anything else you want to hit on?
No, not off the top of my head.
I think I've kind of touched on everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I will say is that, as we're talking about it and going over the way the characters go through their own personal stuff throughout the movie and the way that that's plotted out, I'm realizing that it's a little bit more mapped out and building than it seems like when you're just watching the movie because of, as I talked about earlier, it has that sort of meandering, to use a term that the coach uses in the movie, lollygagging sort of pace to it, and doesn't feel like it's really moving forward based on the plot very much. I think it's a little deceptively well mapped out, because I didn't even really necessarily think about how Millie's marriage is another thing that pushes Susan Sarandon towards the end of the movie, where she ends up in the end of the movie, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a deceptively well mapped out and well thought out, and seems really simple on the surface, which I think is all intentional, that it has this pacing.
I agree, and it's all about character journeys and kind of where they end up and where they're headed. And I also think it's interesting. Kevin Costner's character is actually giving advice to the coach on what to do, because the coach was like, "Well, I don't know what to do with these guys," and he's like, "Scare them," and then that's when the lollygagging tantrum happens in the shower, right? But like that's just one more building block towards where Kevin Costner's going. Mm-hmm. Where he really belongs is probably coaching a team, not necessarily trying to hold the team up and be a player.
Yeah. Which, I feel for him when he gets fired, because he was still turning the team around, and you'd think that there is a place for him doing what he does, which I guess would be coaching,
Mm-hmm.
making the team better and getting the best out of the players that are there. But sometimes even when you have something to offer, you end up, having to make way for someone younger.
Yep.
Yeah. The only real reason he was there was specifically for Tim Robbins' character.
Yeah.
I think there's enough evidence to suggest that he would still be good for the team, though.
True enough.
Helping whoever the other pitcher is, he seems to know which pitches will help, and he is about to hit the home run record. Like, I think he has value.
Yeah.
But
agreed. But I think with like AAA baseball, it's more like, it's not about, you don't care if the team wins or loses, unless you're like, if you're in the big leagues, right? You're just it's about farming all the players to get, so like you don't care whether the team loses or not. You just want to get meat up to the big leagues and trained up properly, right? So, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's just a little cutthroat, and
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, cool. Anything else?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Well, let's rate it real quick.
Well,
out of 5. Real quick. Go down the row.
Sure.
Justin, what do you give it?
3.5.
Yeah.
Out of 5.
Yeah. Chris?
3.5.
All right.
Out of 10.
Oh,
I mean,
Mike?
5.
Out of 10. Yeah, I think 3.5 is pretty nice. That's kind of where I'm sitting. I was sitting at 3 earlier today, but after talking about it and the arcs the characters go on, I'm going to bump it up to a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's fun to think about and talk about in terms of those character perspectives and journeys and those thematic elements, and how baseball and and love are kind of the same thing, and how you play the game and all that sort of stuff is like, it's more fun to think on and reflect on than it is necessarily to watch, because it is so baseball forward that I don't know how much I'll rewatch it, but I will think back on it and have fun doing that.
Agreed.
Cool. All right, so Criterion poll. Y'all ready?
Let's do it.
Sure am.
All right, Mike, what's our poll theme this week?
So our poll theme is female directors within the Criterion Collection specifically. So we each are going to choose a film that is directed by a woman, a Criterion film, and then we're going to put it out there for everyone to vote on.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So I will go ahead and get us started real quick so that no one takes my movie.
Okay.
Smart.
Mm-hmm. I am going to do a film that I am scared Justin is going to pick, so I'm going to go ahead and just get it out from under him. It's a film that I have seen before, and I would like to watch again. And it is from the director Andrea Arnold, and I am talking about the movie Fish Tank.
Yes. Cool. That means I can pick another one, because I had it. That was kind of top of my list.
I knew it would be.
Just because I love the movie so much. It's one of my favorite movies, like probably in my top 20. I think it's wonderful. I've seen it many, many times, but it was on the top of my list just so we could, I'd have an excuse to watch it again and we talk about it. But now I'll pick something else.
Ha ha ha.
Okay. Chris, you want to go next?
Yeah, good, because that means mine's still available. I'm going to go with a movie directed by Elaine May, starring John Cassavetes and Peter Falk, who, looking at these pictures, a young Peter Falk looks remarkably like Mark Ruffalo, but that's neither here nor there. It's called Mikey and Nicky. Came out on the Criterion Collection a few years back. I remember talking about it when it did. But yeah, I'm excited to see this one. I like both those actors, and it should be interesting.
Sweet.
Very nice. Yeah. That looks like it's like a 70s sort of indie film.
Yeah.
Which is a genre I tend to like.
Sounds like a Cassavetes movie.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go with a foreign film, one that I've never seen before, but a director who I have seen some of her other work, and I've enjoyed every bit of it that I've seen. But this is from Agnes Varda.
Nice. And
it's 1977. It is One Sings, the Other Doesn't.
Awesome.
So I don't know what this movie's about. I just like the cover, and I like Agnes Varda.
It's about one person singing and the other one not.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
That's as much as I know.
Awesome. So,
okay.
So there we go. That is Fish Tank, Mikey and Nicky, and One Sings, the Other Doesn't.
Yeah. So check our show notes. Go to our Twitter account @CasualCinecast. Vote in the poll. And whichever one wins, we will review very soon.
Huzzah.
Yeah. And with that, we're done for the episode, right?
I believe so.
What movie we're going to do next week?
I guess we should do the whole closing out of the show.
Well, I was going to do the normal thank you stuff, but we'll flip it up this week.
Why not?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Stay tuned to this channel. I believe our next episode is going to be over The Power of the Dog.
Speaking of female directors.
Indeed.
Jane Campion, by the way.
Yep.
Sure is.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week. All that stuff.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.